Cheryl and Bianca, thank you so much for coming on What Lights Us Up. I'm so excited to have double the love and double the light today. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate being here.
So excited to be here.
I'm excited to interview two people at once. This is totally a first. So I want to get right started on how we got here, right? Mother and daughter in a business together that started from your salsa recipe, that started as a passion project. So tell us how, because it's, I think what we all want, right, is to turn our passion into a business. How did you get here?
Well, back in 2008, during the economy crash, Bianca and I both lost our jobs and we didn't know what to do. And salsa and cooking and just cooking in general has always been a passion of ours, something that we've always done together, and we love to feed people. We're just born feeders, I guess. And so we thought, what are we gonna do? And I said, how about if we just sell salsa? We'll go to the farmer's market and we can just sell salsa on the side. And maybe we can get a full-time job, but then on the side we have this little side hustle here where we sell salsa. And that's exactly what we did. So we found another job and we both worked together. We both got hired at the same company. We worked together and we made salsa on the side. And one day we just went to a farmer's market once our company was all set up, and we went one weekend and we got discovered by Albertsons companies, and we just kind of went into retail.
That is incredible. So you were telling me a little bit before we recorded of sort of the approach that they took when they saw you at the farmer's market, right? They walked up to you and you weren't even expecting it. You were just at the farmer's market selling your salsa because you had a passion for it.
Right.
And you wanted to have more light and passion in your life, right? Because you were working full time at the time.
Working full time, yes.
Okay, and so was this yearning of, I want to do more, maybe there's more out there, maybe there's more passion that I can find, and what prompted you to sort of go out to that farmer's market and put your product out there?
After losing our jobs, I had been working there 22 years, and Bianca had worked there about 10 years, Bianca. And we wanted to just turn it around. We wanted to, once one door shut, we wanted this other door to open for us, and we wanted to make something good happen. Because sometimes people get stuck in the same job, like I was in accounting, and I could have done that for another 20 years probably, but I wanted to just make something different, make something happen in our lives that was gonna be beneficial for both of us.
And I think it's important to know too that it was, I think that it's important to remember that when you lost your job, that you also lost your retirement. You found yourself in like a vulnerable position without, having that crutch of like, I lost my job, the company, sold, we don't have retirement, here I am, almost 50, and what am I'm gonna go enter the job market again. And that could be really scary. So the way to turn that around was to not find yourself in a vulnerable position again. If you create your own business, if you create your own way, then you're not as vulnerable to losing your job again in another 10 years. And so we both got jobs again because we needed the income. But I think the important thing was that on the side, that in the back of our minds, it was always like, what could we do to not be vulnerable to losing our jobs again? And that's kind of what ignited the fire of, it was very heartbreaking to lose our jobs, but how can we prevent this from happening again in the future?
Totally. And
Exactly, yeah.
And I faced a layoff last year. I had started this podcast about 4 months before I had gotten laid off, and interviewing so many people that had turned their passion projects into a business, that they were making money. During the time before I had gotten laid off, I was thinking to myself, I'm interviewing all of these people and I feel like I'm an imposter because I'm going to a job that I don't love. But I'm hearing all these people's stories talk about how possible it is, right? Being lit up by their passion and making it into a business. Why can't I do that? And when I was laid off, I had that seed planted in my mind to say, actually, that is possible. And like you're saying, I will never allow anyone to tell me my worth. My power does not sit in someone else's seat for them to decide what happens to me, whether I'm just a number at a company. And so that's when I decided, you know what, I've talked to all of these people, if they can all do it, I can do it too. And I decided to go off on my own, that I can make my own wealth, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. No, I mean, it's great. And you don't think you can do it, but at the same time, if you just keep pushing through, it's going to happen for you.
Right.
And sometimes, like, for us losing our job, it's like we didn't have anything to lose by trying. You know, it would be easy to just keep going to our day-to-day, our 9 to 5, and then just say, oh, I don't have time for this. But when we didn't have that grounding us, we'd had nothing to lose. Why not give it a try?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Exactly. And what planted the seed for the salsa idea? Like, what planted that seed to say, okay, I think I'm going to try putting my salsa out there? I mean, like, where did that come from, right? Talking about planting a seed for my podcast.
Well, coming from a Hispanic family, we all make salsa, and I made salsa all the time, and my neighbors loved it, and friends and family loved it. So anytime we were invited somewhere to a potluck or a picnic, whatever, I said, what can we bring? And they said, bring your salsa, bring your salsa. So every time I brought it, I'd bring a big batch of it, and then they'd be eating, and they're like, you know what, you need to sell this at the store. And I thought, really? You think people would buy it? And absolutely, people would buy it. And I thought, so it kind of stuck in my head. So when I did lose my job and we both lost our jobs, I'm like, how about if we just sell salsa? See where it goes. Like, even if we can get into one store, like, that would be amazing. And we just kept going with it. It took a while. It wasn't overnight. It took us over a year to get our name and our business license and get everything in order to actually go out. So it took a while. So it took some planning, a lot of taste testing and recipes, and we were all prepared. The day that we went out to the farmer's market for the first time, we had prepared everything. And we never knew that would be the first and last time we'd ever have to be there.
So tell us what happened at the farmer's market that day. I mean, you were approached by someone from...
Yeah, so we were there and we were, giving everyone samples, and somebody walked by and said that they wanted a sample. We gave them a sample and they loved it, and they said, let me try another one. Let me try this flavor. Let me try this flavor. And so he said, how much of this can you make on a large scale? And I said, how much do you need? And he said, enough for about 200 stores. And I thought, well, we would need some help, but we could do it.
Did he give you a deadline, or?
He said, I'll call you on Tuesday. And first thing, Tuesday, 8:00 in the morning, he calls, and I didn't know who he was. And I thought, maybe he's going to call, maybe he's not, I didn't know. And he called 8:00 on Tuesday morning, and he said, hey, would you like to be in a cutting? Albertsons is looking for a salsa. They've been making their own guacamole now for 6 months, and it's selling through the roof. They're looking for a salsa to pair up with it. They've already tried about 30 different flavors. They're not happy with them. They're still looking for something fresh and new, something that is not out on the shelves right now. So he said, whip me up a batch and I'll take it to them tomorrow. So I went home after work that day, and I said, I have to make the best salsa I've ever made in my life. The pressure was on. So I put my batch together and gave him the samples the next day, and he called me and he said, hey, I wasn't even out in the parking lot yet, and they called me back and said, where did you find this? They loved it.
Wow.
So they still have some more salsa companies to taste, and we'll let you know in a couple days.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was so excited, and I didn't want to be super excited because I didn't want to come in number 2 and be super excited and then go, oh, someone else won. But so I just kind of kept my cool. A couple days later, he called and said, hey, they want your salsa. So we need to figure out how we can pack it on the large scale now. So I had to find a co-packer.
And then, so talking about figuring things out and really not, so you worked in the restaurant industry before. Did you have any contacts that you were able to utilize, or was it sort of like totally fresh and new? You're learning on the spot as you go, super scrappy.
We did have a couple contacts that knew about co-packing because of some of the items that we had were co-packed in a kitchen. So people gave us some referrals, so we made some appointments. We went and talked to these co-packers, but every time we went on an appointment, they wanted to use freeze-dried cilantro or frozen, or they didn't want to use fresh onions, and they didn't want to make it fresh how we made it. So after trying, it was about a month, And I thought, you know what, we're not going to make this happen. It's too big for us. I mean, we can't find a co-packer that's going to make it the way we do. And, it's just kind of felt defeated after a month of trying. Maybe we were 10 different co-packers. So I talked to my broker and I said, I don't think we're going to be able to do this. And he's, oh, nonsense, you can do it. And so he said, take the weekend off, get some sleep, and we'll try it again on Monday. So Monday came around and I went to another appointment with another co-packer, and he said, you know what, we can't make this for you because we won't use fresh cilantro either. So he said, but you know what, I know someone who will, and I'm going to call them and I'm going to make the appointment and I'm going to go with you on this appointment. And I was like, great news. So he did, and we went on the appointment, and he said, this is how you're going to make the salsa. He already figured it all out. This is how you're going to make the salsa. It's going to be fresh, it's going to be this and that, and you're going to pack it for them in bulk. And they said we could do it. So with that being said, we went and we got the recipe down with them, because we're going from making 1 pound of salsa to making 500 pounds of salsa. And so we sat there and we went to we were actually on the line while they were making the salsa. Add a little salt, add this, add that, until we perfected it.
Incredible. And what did you do? So you were working for someone else when all this went down. So how did Bianca join you, and was she there from the beginning, but then you were working for someone else? Did you leave that job and then you created this company?
Yes, I stayed on for a while. I stayed on for a few months. And once we got the salsa going, they asked us if we could make dips. So I told Bianca, because she was kind of helping me on the side too. So we were both working together, and she was still working and I was still working, and we were kind of doing this on the side. But then it got really big, and I had to leave my job. So I gave them my notice. And then a few months later, once we started the dips, I said, Bianca, you're going to have to give your notice too, because now it's getting too big. And, we don't want to take away from the job, either. We didn't want to take away any time from them. So it's just best if we both left.
Right.
So, I mean, we both left our jobs, and we just kind of just kind of worked and grinded. We just wore many hats. I was making recipes, and I'm also doing the accounting. And Bianca's doing inventories and orders and POs and all this different stuff that we had no idea about. I mean, we had to start a QuickBooks account, and it was just all new to us. Everything was so new. So it was a big learning curve for us, but we just put our nose to the ground and just did it.
And what advice would you have for someone who may not know what their passion is, or they might know what their passion is? They know they want to do something different. They're facing a big life change. Maybe it's a layoff, maybe it's a move. What advice would you give someone that sort of has that idea, but they don't know where to begin?
I would say follow your passion, because the old saying, like, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's what I feel the last 11 years has been for us. Because even though, we've worked hard and we've worked weekends and days and night, like we really didn't have a set schedule, but we were able to set a schedule for ourselves, and we just love what we do. It didn't feel like work. It still doesn't. I enjoy cooking. I enjoy recipes. I enjoy doing demos at the store and getting feedback from customers. Everything.
I think my journey, you talked about it a lot, about just figuring it out. Like, you didn't know, neither one of you knew what you were doing. You didn't know who you needed, what you needed. You were just like, yes, I'm going to do that, because you knew you had a passion for it, right? And so I think part of my self-discovery in creating my cookbook and creating this podcast and everything I continue to do, right, by following what lights me up, is what fuels me from inside to help me achieve that. Because there has to be this greater power that is helping me.
Yes.
I swear, right? Because it's like, how did I figure that out? You look back and you're like, how did I figure that out?
We think that a lot.
I think the funny thing is like, even if you just go back to that, that moment at the farmer's market when, you know, the broker asks like, oh, how much of this stuff can you make? And, you know, my mom's like, how much do you need? And, you know, he's like, enough for 200 stores. And she's like, okay. And to me, like, I'm like deer in the headlights. I'm so scared. Like, what do you mean? Like, we're not gonna sleep. We're gonna be all day and all night. That's a lot of salsa. And like, all the wheels are turning in my brain. Like, there's no way. That's like the first thing I went to. Like, there's no way we can do that. But she said yes. And I think that like the funny thing is that we've just kind of made our whole career about saying yes. And even when it's scary or when it's hard, we always try. And it might even just be a customer service background from being in a restaurant industry. We worked for a restaurant that was very customer focused, and we never wanted to disappoint them. We never wanted to say no. We wanted to say yes at every opportunity we could. So whenever we're giving these opportunities, or hey, do you make dips? And it's like, well, we can, yes. You know, can you do this for me? Yes. And we always try and say yes. And then in the background, we might be scrambling to figure out how to do it, but it challenges us. And like you said, it ignites us, right? Because then it draws that passion back of like why we're here, what we love to do. If we love cooking, we love creating, we love bringing people together through food, then let us do something that even if we didn't know how to do, we're going to figure it out. And we're going to, you know, use that as a tool to excite ourselves. We're excited. We're going to try and excite other people. We're going to bring people over and say, hey, come try this. So that really is like this full circle moment of every time we say yes, there's like these blessings attached to it, because, you know, we learn something new, we add something to our repertoire, we bring people together. So it always comes full circle.
Totally. And, you know, I think being okay with it not being perfect, right? Like we talked about that, and just figuring it out. Like, what if you did it, you said yes, and it didn't come out perfect? And then the next time it was a learning experience.
Right? Exactly. You just get yourself back up again. Start over.
Exactly. So where did this passion for food come from? I mean, I have a passion for food too, and I naturally resonate to a lot of guests for this podcast around food. And I grew up cooking with my grandmother and having dinners around the table, and it's a huge part of my sort of passion, just stemming from the cookbook and having it be a passion project. What inspired your passion for food?
I think cooking with my mom. Since we were little, she used to have us cooking. She'd help us. We'd make tortillas, we'd make whatever, and she'd assign us little projects. You cook this, I'll cook this. And we used to cook side by side with her, and we would play music, and she would make tortillas. I mean, it was just like a big project. So if you weren't cooking, you were washing dishes. So I preferred to cook. And she taught us everything she knew, and she was a great cook. She loved cooking. So I think I just took it from there. And like all the great dinners we had, like my mom was a single mom, 5 kids, and she always made us a 4-course dinner. Like we always had everything we needed. And I don't know how she did it on the small budget, but she did. And that was the fun part about it. And we always sat together and had dinner as a family every night. And even if we didn't have money for shoes or whatever, we always ate. We always had dinner. So it's kind of just a really special memory for me, knowing that we had food on the table, always. And growing up, I just loved food. And when I was able to work, we went to lunch. I went to lunch with a friend. We went to Marie Callender's. And I thought that place was heaven because I just saw all these pies on the walls. I mean, these beautiful pies, and they were everywhere. and I thought, oh my God, this is my dream. I want to work here.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
Yeah, so my first job was Marie Callender's when I was 18, old enough to work. And I started working there. And I mean, food, it became my passion. So
wow,
I just loved it, everything about it.
Oh my gosh, wow. Yeah. And Bianca, what was your story?
I just love to eat. I think I am just a total food person. I love to eat. I think it was always that. And I think when I was young, my mom always cooked things from scratch, which I didn't know because I would like watch TV and there was like this cake in a box or buy this, whether it was like, you know, rice aroni, the San Francisco treat, like all this stuff I was always seeing. And I was like, why don't we have that? And I would get like so bummed that we weren't making like cake from a box, or like if we didn't have like a can of icing, you know, and I'd be like, oh, I'm like, we'll just make it. And I was always like, I don't want that, you know, like I want the one from the store, like, you know, and I always, but anyway, as I got older, I learned to like appreciate that, you know, it was like oh, we'll just make this, or we could, we always just did everything from scratch. And as I got older, I realized, oh, well, that's like way better for you, and it tastes better, and it is better, and all of those things. And so then that's kind of, but for me, it was just, I love to eat. And then after I realized that I was, what I was eating, as I got older, I really appreciated that my mom showed me all the ways to cook things from scratch and how to make things.
I wonder, and I was just thinking as you were talking, I wonder if it's how we become resourceful a little bit. Like cooking is sort of one of those hobbies where you have to be resourceful, right? Like you have to figure it out. You have set amount of ingredients. You have to read a recipe. Is it good or not?
Right.
Like, maybe it helps us in entrepreneurship, cooking,
growing. You're challenged.
Right.
Yeah.
You are. And consistency too. Consistency, because you can make the same recipe over and over and over where you don't even need the recipe any longer, but you do it for so long, it's so consistent. And I think it helps you baking. Like when I was 16, I started making these Christmas baskets for people with cookies and bread, and every year I would expand it, and I'd give it to all of our relatives and friends, and it's still like I bake cookies every year, and I give them to our neighborhood and our friends and family, and every year people come around, they go, "You're gonna make the cookie baskets?"
I love that.
And so it's just something I've always done, and I enjoy it.
You don't see, you lose, we were talking about how the American culture, I just came back from Italy, and it's just, Italy is such a culture around food, centered around food. And I think everyone you talk to, anyone that's been to Italy is like, oh my God, the food, we go for the food. It's just this amazing culture. And in America, we sort of lose that sometimes. And even multi-generations, as we grow up, we move away from our family, and we don't always have that time around the table. I grew up with that time around the table. And for me, when I show love, if it's a birthday gift for someone, I like to cook them dinner. I like to invite someone over for dinner. We're sending them off to move away. I host a dinner. If I have a holiday, I host a dinner. So for me, it's a love language to invite someone over to my house to have dinner. What do you think we can invite into our life by sitting around the table with someone?
You know what? With this generation and cell phones and everything, I feel like people don't talk that much anymore. I try to reach out to family, and people don't call each other anymore. So when you're sitting down at the table, you're face to face, you're conversating, you're not texting them and getting maybe a one-word answer back. You're actually conversating and expecting an answer and giving a question, and it just reminds me of the way things used to be.
One of the things that we always say is that when people come and gather around the table to break bread together.
I was just at a Jewish dinner, and I'm not Jewish, but I went to this Jewish philanthropy dinner, and they broke bread. I had never experienced that. They had a rabbi who broke the bread and did the speech, and then we all sat around the table, and there were a lot of people there were Jewish, but there were some non-Jewish people, and it was all Israeli food, and it was hosted by some LA restaurants, and it was really, I found it really interesting to just sit at a table and learn someone else's culture through food, whether it was breaking the bread, whether it was what they would traditionally eat, how they would eat it, like in the courses, what things are served with. I thought that was really, really interesting. And I thought, God, why don't we do more of this? Why don't we sit around the table with each other? We're so divided. And all we need is food to really bring us together, to foster that connection.
Right.
And learn about
You're
someone
right. Connection
else's,
is a good word.
Right.
You're connecting with people, you're eating and connecting and tasting and everything else. So that's a great word.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, food is a great conduit, and when you bring people together around, if you have a party, people gather around wherever the food is set out. If it's a big island, then everyone's there. And people food makes people happy, and when people are happy, then they will converse and they will talk and they will share. And ultimately, it's you share a moment, you share a conversation, and it really brings people together. But I think that the thread that goes between that is love. You bake something with love.
Right.
You host people with love.
Right.
You do everything, and so there's this relationship that begins, and you get to talk to people, you get to know them, and you feel this love for people when you really get to stop and unplug from the things that distract us and just sit and talk to someone, chat with them, eat with them. You know, you get all warm and fuzzy inside, you're eating, and it just feels good. And I think that sometimes we lose that, but food is a great conduit to bring that back.
And I think your salsa, I mean, people could probably feel the love in the salsa. It's an exchange of energy, right? Like you're making the salsa with love, and it's an exchange of your love to someone else, even if you've never met them.
That's so true, and that's what we tell people that all the time. We said, save us a place at your dinner table or at your table, because we feel like we're eating with you and your family when you invite us to your table and you bring our salsa home.
Yeah,
Right.
We're invited to all these dinner tables that maybe we've never met, we've never seen you, but like we have this place at your table and we're so honored.
Right, exactly. What would you say to someone who, going back to connection, wants to find more connection in their life, but maybe they don't have a big family, or maybe they're, you know, what advice would you give them?
I think even if they don't have a family, they can invite friends over for dinner, like maybe once a month, and just, you know, kind of connect with them. Even if it's you just want to connect with women and you just want to have this little like circle of women that you connect with, and you maybe a monthly basis, or you can try different recipes every month and have a different meal, Italian one month, and you maybe try an Israeli dinner the next month, and to try different cultures' foods. That's always fun too.
I love that idea. Like we just made branzino.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
And you just learned how to make branzino.
Exactly, for the first time. And see, we are like, oh, we cook all the time, we do this, and you're like, Branzino, we're like, never.
Well, it's the first time I'm having it with salsa.
Right,
So I'm
right.
really excited to like, we're mixing our cultures. I love it.
Totally. And it's right, it's that exchange. It's the exchange of what you bring to the table, what we bring to the table, and then when we leave here, when we go our separate ways, like I'll take that with me. It's not just the food, but I'll take the recipe. I'll be like, oh, I learned how to make this. So I have a friend that, you know, is Italian background, went to Italy, learned, shared this with me, and then I can share it with someone else.
It's the experience,
Right.
right? Like, so thinking about sitting at the table, cooking, growing up cooking, our family experience, it's all about the experiences we take with us and our memories. And I think if we carry that with us, right, it's really about fostering an experience for people and bringing people along with us. Like you're in business together. What has it been like working together for so many years, and you're in business together, just the two of you, literally. Yes. What is that like? I mean,
it's amazing. It's really, it's amazing for me. Because I've worked with her since she was 18, when she was 16 years old. We've always worked together, and we've always made it work. And so working with her now, it just seems so natural to work with her, and I get to talk to her every day, and we do all these like fun things together, and we're building the business together too. And one thing that I really wanted to leave was a legacy for her. And then Bianca has a daughter who's in her first year in college. So I'm hoping she joins us soon, and just, you know, carries on this tradition and this business and expand it together. And it's something that we built together.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think that nowadays we think business and family are so separate, but I mean, for centuries, you were the business at your family. If your father was a blacksmith, you were a blacksmith. If he was a farmer, you were a farmer. And I think that people now think like, oh, that's weird, you work with your mom, or oh, family business, there must be a ton of conflict. That's what you hear. No, really. But I think that we're not thinking of like the team dynamic, right? Like you think, oh, this is a dream team. They've played together for this many years. They know each other's next move. And that's the way that I feel. We know each other so well. I know what she's thinking. I know what the next move is. I know, are you thinking about that? Yeah, I thought about that. You know, and we're constantly playing off each other because we know we've done it so many times. We work together so well. We built these years of working together side by side, being each other's right-hand man. And it's just been really, really great for us to do that.
That's incredible. And what lights you up most about this journey that you're on?
I think just building something together. And that's I think what we've done. We've just built this business together, and whether it's recipes or, you know, even connecting to our buyers. I mean, you know, there's different things that I bring, and there's different things that Bianca brings. So together, I mean, it's dynamic. It really is.
Yeah. And what would you say to someone who's looking for their light? You know, they don't know what their passion is. They're looking to find inspiration.
I think that I totally think you should follow your dream no matter what it is. And you know what? It's whatever your dream is. Like Bianca's sister was knitting, and she created this page, and she knitted all these like fantastic things of, that people would want to buy. And I mean, it was her passion. She just sit there and knit at night, but she loved doing it. It didn't make a lot of money, but she loved doing it. And I mean, she could have built it further, but I mean, no matter what it is, whether it's knitting or cooking or, whatever you want to do, definitely follow it.
Yeah. And everyone has like a different passion, different spark. And I know it's hard sometimes to figure out what that is, but when you think back, it's like, what do I enjoy? What makes me smile? When am I happiest? And when I'm doing X, Y, or Z. Mm-hmm. And for some people, it's completely different. They're, doing yoga in the park, and that's what makes them happy. Well, maybe they can, become an instructor and do that on the weekends, build a brand. There's so many different things, and we all have so many different gifts, and it's just tapping into that. Like when do I feel joy? When do I feel happy?
It's really getting clear on that. I think for a long time, I didn't recognize my feelings, and so it was hard for me to recognize when I was joyous versus, sad versus frustrated. Like, I thought it was normal to just work a corporate, like, get to talking about conditions, like what we're conditioned as children. Like, I thought it was normal just to work a corporate job. Like, that's what you do for your life.
Right.
You go to college, you work a job, and you do a passion maybe on the side that you don't make money from, but you actually made money from your passion. So what advice would you have for someone who is looking to make money from their passion?
You know what? It's like, always think big. Always think big. Like don't just think small. Like I really thought small when I said I'm just going to go to a farmer's market on the weekends and sell salsa. I mean, I'm not going to make a lot of money, but it's something that I would love to do. And as soon as we did it and we got discovered and people really liked it, I mean, it just blew up overnight, which was so unexpected. So even if you take a little baby step the way that we did, and if people like what you're making and what you have to offer, it's going to blow up. It's all supply and demand, right?
Well, it's about your energy too.
Right.
I think people recognize your energy, your passion for something, and I think it shows, right? Like what, we show what lights us up, literally, like on our face. So, well, thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. This has been so much fun.
It really has.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
It's been great.
The cooking and everything.
I know, everything. I can't wait to try the fish.
So let us know where we can find you, follow you, find your salsa.
Yeah, so you can always find us at ocsalsarica.com, and then you can follow us on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram at OC Salsa Rica. And then as far as stores and our products, so we are in Southern California at Albertsons and Vons in the deli section. And our packaging is really bright. It's supposed to be a reflection of our bright culture that we want to share with you.
Amazing. Yeah. So pretty much like any Albertsons or Vons.
Yep.
You can find
Southern California, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.